Full-time score here in Kingspan, Breffini Park, and it's Tyrone 18 points, Westmeath 18 points. Neil, what did you make of that?
Yeah, Cathal, a funny sort of a game, a real double-header atmosphere at the start of the game where you had a big Dublin crowd in from the first game, seemed to clear out, kind of left a little bit of a lull, also had a really heavy shower of rain before the game started, made conditions tricky, so it was kind of a game that was slow to get to life. Even into the second half, that lull was still evident in the game, but I think I said it to you at one point, it was like a game that was going to kick into action in the last 10 minutes, and it really, really did.
Yeah.
There was a point there where it looked like Tyrone, they'd went 4 points ahead, where they were maybe going to kick for home, but to be fair to Westmeath, as good as they were up to that point, my admiration for them even went up beyond that after that point. They really dug in, went down the other end of the pitch, got a score on the board, and they just didn't let Tyrone get out of sight. Tyrone will probably mention a goal opportunity they had. It was very similar to the Sean Powder incident, Cork versus Kerry. Con Kilpatrick got in behind the defence, looked like it was a goal scoring chance on. Westmeath full-back came across, took him down, you could argue cynically, probably most people would say cynically, but Noel Mooney, the Cavan referee, deemed that it wasn't, give him a yellow card and only a free for Tyrone. So if Tyrone had got a goal at that stage, they probably would have seen it out, but that kept Westmeath in the game. A few great scores from Westmeath after that. Kieran Martin came on, that old stalwart, kicked a great score from under the terrace to his left foot on the far side, and that all led up to the drama. Last minute, John Heslin with a free that would have put Westmeath through to the preliminary quarterfinals and would have put Tyrone out of the race for Sam Maguire, and it drifted inches wide, and your heart would break for Westmeath, the performance they put in to be in that position, but especially for John Heslin. He had been so impressive, as he always is. He's always outstanding. He's the talisman for Westmeath. He led the charge today again, and it was just inches wide. It was a tricky free, and to be fair to him, there was a long wait before he even got the opportunity to take it. The linesman, I don't think he needed to. He seemed to be having a few words about where he was going to take it from when the opportunity did come around to take the free. So, not ideal to have that build up to such an important kick.
Yeah, he'll learn from that though, won't he? They're the kind of games that Westmeath that they need.
Absolutely. Westmeath winning Talton Cup last year. I probably, with their Division 3 form this year, I would have had a slight fear that them winning the Talton Cup and maybe underperforming in such a tough group that they got. You couldn't have asked for a tougher group when you look at Galway, many people's favourites for the All-Ireland, Tyrone and Armagh, and two top Ulster teams coming off the back of Division 1 season. Westmeath on the other hand stuttered through Division 3, didn't set it alight by any means, didn't trouble the teams for promotion. You thought maybe they could have came into this round robin stage and it might have been a poor reflection on Talton Cup winners, but they've proved a lot of people wrong. Desi Dolan, his background team, they've had them superbly organised. You could even tell from the first few minutes of that game up in Armagh, they were playing to a definite structure. They'd used a few weeks since the Leinster Championship very, very well. They'll have come on immensely from that, and as disappointing as it was for them to finish so close to going through to a preliminary quarter final, I think for Desi Dolan and all that Westmeath panel, they'll have left today, leaving Breffini Park, heading back down to Westmeath with a huge amount to build on, and he'll have no problem getting those guys motivated for the off-season. And I think the big thing for the teams outside of Division 1 and maybe even the top half of Division 2 is that there is no off-season now. It's the conditioning of those Division 1 teams has went to another level, and if Desi Dolan needs to motivate his team to get straight into a pre-season for next year and stick at it at their own extra pieces of work during the club season, well, he has all the motivation he needs now after showing how close they were today.
What did you make of Tyrone? They have a game on the road now next weekend. I mean, they just came out of here with the skin of their teeth.
Tyrone were exactly how Tyrone have been since they won the All-Ireland, unconvincing, and at times there was a stage there when they got 3 or 4 points up. They were forcing Westmeath to maybe take on riskier passes, and it was just playing right into their hands because Tyrone were able to turn them over, and they're a team that just thrives on turnovers. And if you give them that turnover ball, they will do serious damage. And a few times that's probably where Con Kilpatrick's goal chance with the controversial moment came from. A few times even Brian Kennedy had got in behind. It's a definite tactic from Tyrone to get those midfielders in behind opposition defences. At times that one of their two midfielders was their most advanced player. Tyrone unconvincing, but still capable of winning All Ireland. Like there's no team will want to play Tyrone next again in the preliminary quarterfinals. If they get through a preliminary quarterfinal, they're capable of beating a Dublin. They're capable of beating a Kerry. Galway, Mayo. They won't fear them. They have that ability to do it, and I think it has to be said, it was an absolute pleasure to witness Derek Hannivan in action here today.
Some player, isn't he?
Just amazing. I watched him against Armagh, and he got a score when they really, really needed a score in that second half. He bounced off a few people. He's nearly like a bowling ball, kind of just. You can't knock him down. He just keep going forward.
Yeah, it happened over here in front of the goal over on this side as well, where he spun around. It seemed like he should have passed it, and he still kept the ball.
Yeah,
he was able to get a kick away.
Yeah, and he has this lovely little solo. It seems to maybe only go about an inch out of his hand.
Yeah.
So nobody can get a tackle in on him. He got scores off his right foot today. He got a score off his left foot when they needed a score there late in the second half as well. Just really amazing. Just balanced, close control. Just a pleasure to watch. So, to be fair to Kevin Maguire, the Westmeath full-back, he didn't have a bad game, but he had his hands full trying to keep an eye on Derek Hannivan.
I know it seems like it's a week away, or a week ago, but we also watched Dublin demolish Sligo here. Like, can you take much out of that? Like, there's been a lot of talk about where Dublin are at. I mean, they've topped the group now, haven't they? And they demolished Sligo today. But do we still know where they're at? They'll take a lot of pleasure in having a week off, won't they?
Yeah, but I think the way that we look at Dublin and where they're at, we look at them in comparison to the Dublin team that won all those Irelands in a row. They were by a distance the best team at that time. To be fair to Mayo, they were capable of maybe putting it up to them in some of those All-Ireland finals, and that was a great reflection on just how well coached and the strength of that Mayo group of players. But the Dublin team are not that Dublin team. That was a generational team. They were probably the best team we've ever seen play the game of football. This Dublin team are not the same as that team, but they are more than capable of winning an All-Ireland. So I think if we don't judge them in comparison to that team, we have to say, they're probably in the top two contenders along with Kerry to win an All-Ireland.
You think so? Yeah. Yeah,
I really do. There's some serious quality there. And one thing I did notice today is just some of those little, like, silly, what I would call them, skillers are still in their game, and they like. The team that wins the All-Ireland are going to have to eliminate that from their game. But Dessie Farrell will leave here today, and he's going to have that as a stick to beat them with going into training the next few days. And it's minor little things. It's a hand pass, just 2-3 inches behind a man, or just going to ground before it gets to a man. And that's the sort of stuff that Dublin team under Jim Gavin or even Pat Gilroy before that they just didn't do. So but that's easily corrected. Especially they have 2 weeks of training now. This time of the year, lads are only going to be dying to get into training on a Tuesday evening, do the video session. I think that's those little silly turnovers, and even I was very surprised with some of the guys that done it, but we had Paul Mannion dropping a shot short there in the second half. Those things that you don't expect, but we've seen that in the Roscommon game as well. They were a point up in injury time. Brian Fenton dropped a shot short. So Dublin, they will, if they start to get those little things right, which are easily done on a training pitch or in a video session, they'll be a match for anyone. And their athleticism as well is breathtaking when you see it against the Division 4 team. At times today, Sligo guys just took an extra half a second on a ball that you get away with in Division 4, but they were just swallowed up by the physicality of some of the dubs today.
The round robin is now over. It's first year of it. What did you make of it?
Yeah, I guess when you talk about the format, the one thing I will say is I think we need to wait until the season is over to really judge the format. What have I made of it to date? I think it's been mixed, and it's very, the last half an hour or the last 20 minutes today, there was drama across the country. We've seen in both the earlier games and the later games, we had one, not just points on the board, but, points over the bar in each of the games, probably deciding placings or who went through in different games, so there's high drama there. I guess the one thing I would say is expectation can be the enemy of enjoyment sometimes, and we're expecting championship football from these group stages, but they're not championship football. They're very, very much group stages. We're going into now 4 rounds in knockout football from here. We're going to have the best 12 teams in the country involved in those games, so we're going to see some great knockout football from here. To be honest, you could probably make a comparison with the Champions League. For years, and everybody said, we need a Champions League format. But then when the Champions League group stages are played in soccer in the autumn time, people aren't really that interested in the group stages, because they say, the Champions League doesn't start until the knockout stages. And I think that's exactly what we've seen in this tournament. We've had our little bit of drama today with teams, deciding who goes through automatically, who gets a home draw next weekend. But the real competition starts now from next weekend on.
As a player, would you have liked it?
As a player, I would have absolutely loved it, because the one thing that drove me absolutely insane was the training to games ratio when I was playing. We went 8-9 week gaps during the season, not playing a game. Even then, you play a championship game, you might be waiting around to play a backdoor game. Especially in Connacht, the championship might have started a little earlier some seasons, and you're waiting on maybe some of the Leinster counties to come out until they do a first or second round draw for a qualifier. So I would have absolutely loved it as a player, and the reason I would have loved it is to cut down on the training time. Nobody plays games or nobody plays football to do 10 training sessions to one game. You just want to get out, you want to play games. There's the enjoyment factor of playing games. It's even justifying some of the sacrifices to friends and family. If they see that you're playing games and there's a reason for all this sacrifice, it makes that a little easier as well.
That's a good point.
There's all that in it, but I think for supporters, they want to be going to games. There's so much to be said.
Do you think there is that an issue as well, though? I think there was only something like 7,000 in Carrick and Shannon for the other game. I know the Dubs brought a good crowd here for the first game, but it did fizzle out a small bit. Is it too much maybe for supporters to go to games, but they do enjoy watching them on telly or GAA Go or whatever it may be? Yeah,
well, I think every game you play, it generates stories, it generates new storylines. I think there's that in it for supporters. I think the GAA really need to look at how they've marketed this stage of the competition, but also how they've priced the tickets. The fact, I think it's crazy, especially for families, that there wasn't even a bundle option for these 3 group games that would have made it very, very attractive. To be honest, I would have said €30 for the 3 games. €30 gets you a ticket for your 3 games, maybe €20 for one game, so people feel like they're getting a lot of value. We have to be honest, these are extra games for the GAA. I know there's a cost to putting on the games, but we had group stage games this year that didn't exist before, so that's extra revenue for the GAA. I think if marketed correctly and priced correctly, there's a great opportunity to start growing a fan base behind counties and get people into the habit of going to these summer games. We've seen during the National League, there is a hardcore supporters there, and it can easily be grown, I think, if it's marketed and priced in the right way.
So it's knockout football from here on in. If you had to put it down now, who is going to win the All-Ireland at the end of this year?
Obviously the draw is going to have a big say in it. I've had a feeling since the start of the year that Dublin and Kerry are the 2 best teams in the country. Can they avoid each other until the final, or what way is that's possible semi-final pairing going to play out? They're both already in a quarter-final. Galway and Mayo, they're capable of beating Dublin and Kerry, but I just don't think maybe Galway and Mayo are capable of getting 3 big wins in a row. Now, the way that the games have played out today, they're going to have to get 4 big wins in a row. It's going to be a huge ask for them.
Yeah, well, we saw over 140 minutes of Gaelic football today, and we were very entertained in the last 10 minutes of it all. So Final score here in Cavan: Tyrone 18 points, Westmeath 18 points. Thank you, Neil.
Thank you very much, Carl. Pleasure.